And welcome everyone to another live stream on this channel. Today is going to be a debunk one. Obviously, you clicked on the title, you can see that. But we're going to be taking on some 5G conspiracy theories because, well, my PhD is basically in radiation, or at least light matter interaction. And there is so much wrong out there about these 5G conspiracy theories, but that doesn't mean I can take this alone. So today I have a wonderful special guest. So Maddie from ScienceSideUp, welcome. And
Hello.
I'm glad you can join me.
I am super glad to be here. Let's see. So I don't do pure physics like you do. I do meteorology, but I do have a background. I spent 4 years teaching nuclear physics in the Navy, in the U.S. Navy. So I know a good bit about like radiation safety. We talked about that a whole lot. And what is and isn't dangerous in terms of the EM spectrum. So I'm excited. To do this with you. I'm happy to be on your channel.
Yes, for a change. Yeah. I know, hopefully we'll get a few more people, but for those who are here, welcome to everyone in the chat. We've got Claire, I can see Krabby Hermit, so welcome to both of you. I'm sure there's a few other people lurking, and as people join, feel free. As usual, today we'll do our debunk topic, but there will be Q&A at the end. Don't worry if you have any questions for us. I will do my best to cover them. Just make sure you tag me in so I highlights to me. But yes, I think with our topic areas, Maddie, we can hopefully deal with the severely, incredibly high level of science that we're about to put ourselves through.
I'm excited. I'm
prepping myself. I have a lovely cup of tea here because I'm going to need something to drink. Although your suggestion of maybe adding some whiskey to it is probably not going to be too bad by the end of this. Where we'll see how this goes. So for anyone who isn't familiar, I actually got the idea to do a debunk of Woodward TV, which is a several 100,000 subscriber YouTube channel from Maddie. I directly stole the idea over, so I was like, I should get Maddie on to at least cover this as well. So I stole Maddie as well. That's basically the end of that.
Did I do their HARP video? I think
you did, and you did their microwaves are evil, and I was looking going,
yeah.
So this guy has a lot of brilliant stuff out there, including microwaves are out to get us. They kill our food. They make us die young, despite the fact that microwaves are the second most healthy form of cooking your food after steaming in terms of keeping original proteins. But that's the level we're dealing with. This guy thinks 5G is evil, but claims he's not a conspiracy theorist because he doesn't go as far as other people. Yes, we're in for it. But before we go, Maddie, do you have any predictions about what's going to come up? I don't know if you've actually seen this video. I've seen it.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen this video. This is what I think they're going to say. 5G is somehow like that frequency is somehow negatively affecting the frequency at which humans vibrate, which is a very fun bit of nonsense that people like to say. And it gives you, I'm going to go with diseases in general. Though like there was early in the pandemic, there was a lot of nonsense going around about like, it's not a virus, it's 5G.
Yes.
So I don't know if we're going to get into that. But I just want to hear how like radio waves are supposed to kill me.
Yes. Now, before we start, because I mean, it doesn't matter whether we're doing this, whether I'd seen the video or not. I would cover this. There's two different types of radiation that we need to consider when dealing with electromagnetic radiation: ionizing and non-ionizing. When we're talking about dangerous, non-ionizing, radiation gets confusing, but we're talking about individual photons. Doesn't matter how many of these photons I have, if any single photon doesn't have enough energy to do damage, doesn't matter how many of them I use, I'm not doing damage. Beyond maybe literally cooking you with radiation, but you would feel that. You would just get really, really hot.
Yeah.
So the cutoff for that is the end of the visible spectrum, so going into UV. That's why you got to put on your sunscreen if you're going out into the sun. Well, you should. I did manage to get a bit burnt this summer, but I'm in Australia. That's normal. However, anything longer wavelengths, so lower energy than that, the individual photons don't have enough energy to do any damage. They can't break any proper bonds, which is what you need to do to damage DNA and cause cancer, which is the main one they tend to go for. Besides a nuclear reactor, you need very short wavelengths. Yeah, and that's a different type of radiation.
That's a different type of radiation. Maybe to put that a little more simply and intuitively, right? I've got a ring light right here, and it's putting the pretty pink color on my face. I think we can all understand pretty intuitively that I can sit and stare at this ring light all day, and I'm not going to get a sunburn, right? But if I go outside, because there's no UV, there's no ionizing radiation, only visible range is coming out of this. But if I go outside, there's UV coming from the sun, and I can get a sunburn from there. So that's it. That full stop. If you understand that, that's the full concept we're talking about. Certain types of light can't give you a sunburn.
Yes, and the LEDs in your ring light are more have more energy than 5G, which is well off into the radio/microwave region, because we're at the far end of that. Yes, they're slightly shorter wavelengths than the rest, but they're not close enough to do immediate damage. So we'll see if he gets to that. I will probably skip bits of the video because there are sometimes where he's just explaining how it works or just goes off on tangents, and I have no idea what he's talking about. But I think we've done enough talking. So, well, I've definitely done enough talking, and I want to hear what you have to say once we do. So, hopefully the volume is going to work for this. So let me know if it doesn't, anyone. But here we go.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to talk.
Oh,
no, I'm not breaking up with you. We just need to discuss something that has come to my attention, and since I am seeing more and more of this issue present, I want to give you all my thoughts on the matter.
I was hoping you
Quite a few individuals have been asking me about 5G. Mm-hmm. And not just a few people, dozens
so far,
of people have been asking me to cover this. And some have asked if this has anything to do with the situation we are all now dealing with. You know, I don't know.
I know where you got that image from, too.
Who has anything good to say about 5G.
I have good things to say about 5G.
I didn't hear anyone.
Yeah, that's a lie. Every physicist I've spoken to likes the idea.
Yeah. Was that instrument at the beginning, was that a cell tower? That looks like a LiDAR to me. That looks like a weather instrument to me. But...
Yes. Oh, okay. I'm going to try something really quickly because I know exactly where he's got all these images from. Because I think I'm pretty damn sure. So if I'm correct, let me actually... Yep. If I'm correct, we will... This is all it is. Am I... maybe no. I thought I saw... Okay, no. I guess I'm wrong. Oh, there you go. No, it's not quite. Okay. That was similar. I guess I was wrong.
Okay.
That was a slight side note.
I guess
a LiDAR is a weather instrument that sends out EM radiation. I guess that would look like a cell tower. I can goes
jump back for a
second
instrument. If you want.
No.
That one.
That one, yeah. Oh. I'm seeing transmitters that are going to set up. Anyway, that's probably just a cell tower. I was just like, is that a weather instrument? But of course, that's where my brain goes.
I would not be surprised if these people couldn't tell the difference.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, let's see what he has to say, because apparently everybody has...
Everyone's asking him.
Yeah, and everyone has something negative to say. Apart from us, but we don't count for some reason. No.
But I didn't hear anyone complaining about the last 4 generations of mobile communication that we've...
No. I brought up the 5G conspiracy theories to my 93-year-old grandfather who studied electrical engineering back in the 40s.
Excellent.
When I told him what they were saying, he's like, that's exactly what people were saying in my day about the new power lines. Awesome. This is not a new conspiracy theory. And it was just so interesting to hear that 3 generations later, he's like, nothing. I told him all the different things. He's like, I've heard this before. Just, I have no idea what 5G is.
My God. And it's also, all the arguments I've heard about 5G are the same ones that we get sometimes with people who don't think weather radars are safe to have.
Yes, people don't understand how radar works.
They do not.
Although, on that note, the original reason they were trying to develop radar was as a weapon. They thought they could weaponize the radiation, and then it turns out, no, it's a terrible weapon, but it's great for detecting stuff.
It's really great for detecting stuff. And I will say this, with a weather radar, if you just turned it on and put your hand right in front of it and didn't move, your hand would probably get a little warm in about an hour. That's
if you're patient enough to wait an hour, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the radiation coming off it is basically real mild microwave.
Exactly. It's real mild microwave.
And before anyone panics, microwaves are not that dangerous. Everyone thinks about, oh, you can't stand in front of... No. The only thing a microwave is going to do to you is warm you up. That's it. Yes, if you have enough of this radiation, you could cook someone. But the amount of energy you'd need to do damage is just insane. You're not going to be able to power one of these and keep the electronics from blowing themselves up.
Right, and you have to stand still for a really long time.
Yes, these are things that you can just walk away from.
Yeah.
Yeah, inverse square law means that if you go a couple of meters, the radiation drops well down very quickly. Yeah. Your phone will detect it, but you're not going to warm up from it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, these signals are still not that strong. There's so much in your phone about trying to do noise cancellation, like filtering out to find the true signal. That's why radios took such a long time to actually become a thing. It was because even though they knew how to send a signal, it was actually being able to hear it was a very different thing. And yeah, the first audio signal, and this does remind me of something that's related to these conspiracy theories. They often claim that, the 1918 flu pandemic, or they always call it the Spanish flu, which, yes, it's often called that, though that's not probably correct. It should be the American flu if it's anything, because that's where it originated, but we don't call them like that. That one, they're like, that started when radio started becoming a thing, and now we've got 5G and COVID, and they try and draw... I don't know how they link these dots together, but these dots aren't even in the same country, and they tried joining them. However, the first full audio broadcast wasn't until 1919. So... good one on that. Excellent. And of course, COVID did start elsewhere, but I don't think he goes down that route. But anyway, sorry. Right, that's enough of me motor mouthing off.
I'd rather talk about cool science discoveries, but we're going to have to focus in and let this guy talk.
Yes. We got to be fair.
Yeah.
Been living with. Why is that? What is bothering people so much about this fifth generation?
Nothing. It's no different.
Nothing.
There are people who are convinced that some of the conspiracy theories surrounding 5G are absolutely true. Some even believe that people are getting sick due to 5G and not from infection.
So far, so good. Because
what I am going to do
believe these things.
And I have explained what 5G is before in an older presentation. Go back and watch that. It's an important video.
I didn't need to watch it to follow this one.
I will explain it again. And we will take a deeper look at what is truly going on with 5G.
Okay, I don't mean to pause it so often, but he just said, go watch the early video or explain it, but don't worry, I'm explaining it again. And I'm like...
Yeah. First of all, Woodward TV, don't tell me what to do.
Yes.
I'll watch whatever video I want to watch. Thank you.
Yeah, although I'm guessing based on the comments, because we can, if we want, I can find the video. We can go through some of the comments because they're a gold mine of conspiracy theory. But they're kind of scary, so
okay.
I'll leave that to a later vote in the chat as to whether we actually do that. But okay, so far he hasn't said anything incorrect. There are people that believe this.
Not true. He just also hasn't said anything of substance.
Yes.
Right. Some people believe a conspiracy. Okay. That's not evidence of anything, but okay.
Yes. We all know where it's going to go.
Because as long as people sit there and speculate, not knowing for sure what 5G will do to us, we will fail in protecting ourselves and our loved ones. I want you to have a better understanding.
Into it.
Yeah, think
5G is here, folks. They were never going to stop at 4G. We knew that years ago.
Whoa.
Yeah, because that's how numbers
work. So the best thing for us to do right now is to gain knowledge.
Technology
so that we have the ability
How
to
dare
live healthy lives.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing that always gets me is that these people try and, like, they are literally technophobes. Progressive technology scares them, or I don't know if it actually scares them, or whether people like him just use it as something to gain a following. I don't know. I'm not going to comment because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What he says is dangerous.
Yeah.
Because, yes, this one is more lighthearted at least, but it's the conspiratorial thinking and the don't listen to science that gets dangerous, which is why I like doing these streams, because you got to deal with it.
Keep in mind of like the language that he's using, right? There's this ominous they were never gonna stop at 4, right? Like, one, what does that mean? Who is they, right? Who is they? And like and Microsoft, like the operating system Windows was never going to stop at Microsoft 95, right? At Windows 95, right? Typically when we get a new version of something, we increase the number.
It'd be like saying they're not going to stop at Windows 11. I'm like, well, I hope they don't.
They're not going to. They were never going to stop at Fast and Furious 7, right? Like,
maybe they should.
Maybe they should.
I mean, they're not bad if you don't want a serious movie, but that is something I should tackle one day. The physics of some of those scenes. That's a good one. I am definitely going to do movie debunks. I'm going to rip into physics. So if you ever want to join me for one, you have a suggestion.
I absolutely want to. I want to do my favorite bad movie. I just haven't figured out how to stream those without getting copyright struck, right? But my favorite bad disaster movie is The Core.
Oh yeah. Oh. Okay. We definitely have to make that a thing. I will try and figure a way to make sure that we don't get it. I've managed to do like published videos, so not live streams that I haven't been taken down, and I've done them on movies. I'll see if I can figure something similar out. But yeah, we got to tackle this at some point.
It's so good. Okay.
Sorry, I just needed to bring that one up. But how did they shrink the 5G to fit inside the vaccines?
I love how advanced conspiracy theorists think technology is, that they think that there exists a microchip that is so small that it can fit into a vaccine so that you can't see it, right? And is powered and has a transmitter.
Okay. It is physically impossible. Here's why. The antenna, the length of the antenna is directly related to the wavelengths that you're transmitting.
Yeah.
We are not talking nanometer wavelengths here, because that would be visible light. It is physically impossible. I mean, I wouldn't mind being able to glow whenever I feel like it, but that would freak people out. I'd still like it, but I've had one lab accident and I didn't get superpowers, so I wouldn't suggest anyone trying again.
What?
It is physically impossible to actually have nano-sized 5G transmitters. The laws of physics do not allow it. I don't think he goes there, but I just think I needed to say that because that is something that's definitely going to come up when talking about 5G. Anyway.
Okay, let's let him talk.
Yes. In this next generation.
But there's such a lazy production. He's got the good music, but it's just like an image every minute. There's one intro which he's probably paid to get done. It's not in his earlier ones. And
I'm not going to judge production value because have you seen my channel?
Okay, no. My thing here is more about audience sizes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He's got several 100,000 subscribers, and he's done barely nothing.
Here's what I'm going to do.
How aren't we?
I'm going to explain 5G
we
and
should
what it
join him.
does.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain how it affects us physically and mentally. And if you are one of the fortunate...
Okay. I know
That
I shouldn't
is-
pause it this often,
That's
but I
okay.
do need to say that physical and mental health are the same thing.
Yeah.
In the sense that, you know, a lot of the time, you know, we stigmatize it being separate, but it's not. A lot of the time there is something physically wrong with the brain. So just want to say that because it sounds like he's going to somehow join these like anxiety dots together and link it to 5G.
Okay. Fun.
And that's just my little PSA is that there is medically, we should consider them all the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't remember every word he says. I just have the general idea. Anyway.
ones to view this information, I'm going to give you the solution to this issue. If you were to go back and watch most of my earlier videos, there is a reason why I have presented certain information, such as nutrition, grounding yourself, radiation, Planet X. See, this channel is not a place to just rant, whine, bitch, or complain.
Or like
we offer solutions here. I'm not just going to put up a 5G rant and then yell at you all to wake up and just end the video. No. I promise you
basically
that by the end of this video, you will have more clarity and understanding of the situation.
No.
And you will have more confidence when walking around this plagued planet. Now, let's go slow. In the Bible, we have what's called Bible prophecy.
I'm going to put a vote here to you, Maddie. Can we skip this?
Can we skip the prophecy?
Also, can someone who is, if anyone's got a spanner in the chat, can you get rid of the bot? I think we should just skip the prophecy bit because he does go on for a few minutes about why they're doing it, and it's just a load of garbage. It's basically end times prophecy, and somehow that they know it, and that they need to control the population. So 5G, like that's basically what he says.
Okay, yeah.
If anyone wants to hear it, please speak now or forever hold your peace in the chat. And I know there's a slight delay, so we can come back. But yeah, I'm happy to see if we can skip a bit. Nope, still prophecy.
Numbers grow slowly until it reaches a tipping point.
I think this is still prophecy, but he's at least talking numbers. Like it's a little more about why. We'll go from here and see what happens.
Okay.
You can tell me to skip if this starts hurting your brain too much.
Mathematics and exponential growth is important for everything we are dealing with right now.
Okay.
When numbers start to multiply, the numbers grow slowly until it reaches a tipping point.
Okay.
And then the numbers
That's not how exponential
growth works. And also not everything boils down to exponential growth.
No.
But there's other growth models, turns out.
Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thought?
Apparently, there's a bit more to maths than exponential. But also, here's the thing. Exponentials, particularly if you do e to the power of something x, the derivative is the same, pretty much, which means there is no tipping point. They're physically, mathematically, and everything we can see in reality, even like nuclear decay or population growth to some degree, because he's about to forget a whole bunch of other factors that go into that.
So, population growth, right? Population growth does follow exponential growth in the one following scenario, where there is, this happens with like a bacteria, right? Because you can set up a bacteria colony that has effectively infinite food supply and no predators. Right. So those are the two criteria that you need.
Because we know that's how reality works.
That's how reality works.
Yeah. Infinite food, no predators, no disease.
The second you add the second you add a predator, you start to get into a predator-prey model. And if you have 3 animals in that system, you can get a chaotic system, and so it behaves that's actually usually if you're taking a class
like
in
a double
dynamics.
Pendulum with populations.
Yeah. So if you're doing a class in chaotic dynamics, usually like baby's first chaotic system is a 3-animal predator-prey. Where like you have 3 species of fish.
We did either planets or the double pendulum because our physics building has a double pendulum.
Well,
and one of my mates I did my undergrad with, every time we walked past, we got to spin it.
Nice.
If anyone here doesn't know what a double pendulum is, the name pretty much gives it away. Please look a video up of it. Hopefully after this, so I can get your lovely, lovely watch time.
It's just as mesmerizing as a lava lamp. It's great.
Oh yes, they're amazing. Yeah. You've got to look one up. I could almost do a video on it. I might actually ask the school to get permission to film it because it's been surprisingly easy to film a few things in labs so far.
Let me know if you do that because I would love to do. I've been trying to figure out how to do an approachable series on chaotic dynamics for like a long time. And I've not figured out a great way because the math is pretty complicated. But
we'll talk after, but I'm actually now thinking of who I can contact about filming it because the school is surprisingly relaxed with letting people film certain things.
Yeah.
As long as it's not showing off, like you're not advertising or doing anything. If it's just science communication, most of the time they're like, look, as long as it's legal and you're careful with what you say, go for it.
Yeah.
Most people just like science there. So
yeah, double pendulums are super cool.
Yeah, but I still got to go through the right channels, and everyone's away at the moment because they're hiding, understandably.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see now how he doesn't understand maths.
Suddenly double or triple or quadruple within a very short period of time. In the 1950s, the world population back then was only around 2.5 billion people. And because back then the ruling class knew mathematics, they understood how big the human population would grow as of today, which is around 7.5 billion. Now, when these people form an agenda, they set up multiple tracks, multiple lanes they can go down to get to the same end goal. For example, if they want to activate martial law across the country, they have maybe 50 different tracks and will use all 50 different tracks until one of them leads us to that state.
Okay.
And they set up these agendas 50, 60.
Like, please tell me exactly one time when there's been nationwide martial law in the US or Australia, frankly.
I don't know. This is worse than I remember.
Also, where did he get the number 50? Does he has like a what's the word? Like a document?
I think. Look, honestly, I think he gets the 50 in the exact same place he pulls the rest of this stuff from.
Ah, I see. Sorry, there's a word I'm trying to pull and I can't find it. It's gone. It's gone forever.
But anyway, I told you this is what it's like. It's prophecy, they 5G. And I just
the global ruling class all got together in the 50s when we definitely got along with everyone in the entire world.
Yes. The Cold War wasn't a thing.
Yeah. No, clearly not.
Apparently, Russia and America have always been close chums.
Yeah, the ruling class.
I mean, they sold Alaska to America, so there's nothing that could have ever gone wrong between them.
Never.
Yes, and that's not to mention any other problems.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think it gets better.
I don't think it's going to get better. Let's go.
70 years in advance. So, if you are these people who rule the world and are living in the 1950s with around 2.5 billion people, and you know that a great threat is coming upon the Earth around our time, and you also know that the population size will be closing in on 8 billion people worldwide, then you would probably try to set up a population control agenda.
Why?
Which is now a depopulation agenda.
The world can apparently sustainably hold 12 billion people. That's the number I've heard.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, that's a self-regulating system. Like,
yes, you don't need to set up controls, but okay,
no, his logic doesn't make sense. It's people in the past knew the population growth models exist. Cool, right? So the population was going to grow, and there was, let's go with biblically prophesied calamity coming. Therefore, profit, right? Like I'm missing what connects those two things.
Apparently they want to control the population, and it's got something to do with the end times. I am saying it more clearly than he does, and it still does. I still cannot say it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Because during a cataclysmic event, it is much easier to control just a couple billion people rather than around 8 billion people, because that will be out of your control once the crap hits the fan.
Population at 2 billion.
Are you with me so far?
No,
we are not.
Now, keeping all this in mind, let's fast forward to 5G.
Okay.
So what we had in the beginning was the first generation, which was an analog system, the old corded heavy telephones.
No,
I don't think 1G, first G was not
analog
corded.
Right.
I think I think by the time you get to 1G, I believe it's all digital.
Well, because aren't we referring to cellular networks?
Yeah, so I think from memory, and I will double check this while it's playing.
Okay.
1 billion people. Sorry, 1G. Oh, God, people
1G,
in my head.
Yeah.
So 1G was actually about being able to have conversations. 2G was about sending texts. 3 was about being able to do images.
Okay.
I believe, and improving internet, actually doing internet on phones.
4G
was about doing that for streaming. And then 5G is for the fast upload. So I think we're all familiar with that. I think that's how it goes. I will double check that, because it's actually, the history of it is quite fascinating.
Okay.
Because it shows it matches the development of smartphones, mobile phones and smartphones in the modern era. And
I think what you're seeing is one technology driving another, right? We have a more advanced smartphone, so we need more bandwidth. But all of these, the generations of these networks, this is all about wireless communication. This is making cell phones work to make calls, and then you can also play Snake, right? It's a completely different system from what you need for a wired telephone. That's different, turns out. Anywho, that you just need a wire. That's all you need.
No, he is actually correct. Okay. I've just looked it up. 1G is still analog, I believe. Okay. Let me see. 1G is an analog technology, and phones generally had poor battery life, and voice quality was and battery life and voice quality was large without much security. That does not read well. And would sometimes experience drop calls. These are analog telecommunications and standards that were introduced in the 1980s. And until being replaced by 2G telecommunications. The maximum speed of 1G is 2.4 kilobytes per second.
But again, we're talking about, because what he was starting to describe is wired telephones, corded phones.
This is not wired. No, this is cellular networks. All of this is about wireless technology.
Even if it's not fully digital, if it's partially analog, but analog doesn't necessarily mean has a wire.
Yeah, and okay, so I was only wrong about the analog part.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to double check. I think 2G it became a first major upgrade. Main difference was that the radio signals were analog. 2G was digital. Okay, so 2G was the jump to digital. Okay, let's see if he gets that one correct. But I
think he doesn't understand what analog and digital mean and how that's different from wireless.
Yeah, he actually doesn't do a bad job of describing the basics. So he's clearly he's really basically just read Wikipedia for these.
Yeah.
But then it's he's clearly reading from somewhere that has got it correct. And then it just, like the population growth, he's read something about exponential, and you can sort of model human population and then drive straight off a cliff with it.
That system relied upon a bunch of wiring to work. The second generation brought in a global system of mobile devices with GSM, Group Special Module, GPRS, General.
He is right about GSM because I can see that on here. But yeah, you can tell he is reading this from a source without understanding a word of it.
Yeah. So I think what he thinks is from 1G to 5G is a transition from things completely effectively wired, right, to fully like radio signal, right, which is
dangerous killer towers,
right, dangerous killer radio waves. And so, which is not, I think that's what he thinks, right? No, this is just talking about better bandwidths, right? You could send and receive more data faster, and more reliably. That's all that's like if you boil it down to the basics, that's all it's talking about.
Now 3G, I was just before he gets to it, so that I don't need to keep pausing, was actually about smartphones and being able to transmit more data at a lower cost so that you could keep up with that. So you were spot on when you said that these are technologies that drive each other.
Yeah.
Cars are another brilliant one. Look at the technology for like phone connections in cars. As our phones have got better, so is that technology inside the cars. So things like GPS starting, like you now almost can't find a car that doesn't have a new car that doesn't have inbuilt GPS or inbuilt Bluetooth connecting phones, even the lower end cars. And I think this is similar with the phones. You can see that as the they match each other. I do like that. That was a good point. But anyway, let's see how well he can read from a website.
Packet radio service and edge, enhanced data rates for GPS evolution. And these systems were developed to allow new mobile devices to constantly be added to the network. The third generation came along so that they could increase data storage and connectivity speed. Now, the frequencies we were using on the 3G network, because more people started using mobile devices and more people were joining the network, they had to open up new frequencies on the spectrum.
I know that's not technically wrong, but just the way he enunciated the words spectrum and frequency, my brain is twitching on the inside.
Right. He thinks this is something sinister, but just so folks at home, so you guys know, like, is it the FCC? Anyway, there are international, and every country has like agencies that regulate what types of devices can use what frequencies. This is primarily so like the frequencies that say emergency vehicles use aren't the same as what's bringing you Taylor Swift, because we don't want those to crosstalk, right? So that's the point. That's the point of this. So so like as more people are using cellular devices, we need, if originally we allocated this many frequencies to cell phones, maybe now we need this much, right? That's it. That's all that's going on. And we just want to make sure that the frequencies that we use for cellular networks, again, those aren't the same as what a trucker is going to use for a CB radio, aren't the same as what an ambulance uses to communicate with different things, right? That's it. That's nothing sinister.
Of course you need to do that. That makes perfect sense. I am actually, while I hit the play button for this one, I'm going to grab a quick prop because that reminds me of something.
Okay.
You got to have props. You can't
have props. You got to do it.
Yeah. But anyway, I think most of us do know what 4G and 5G are. So let's see how close he gets.
Okay.
But can you see what I mean by just how lazy the production quality is? He's basically working with a single image for a while. Now, I have no problem with the podcast style ones, but at the same time, it's like, it just gets me when you got an audience that big and you don't put a little bit more into it. Anyway. All right. Okay. giant butthole, and yes, not many people. Yeah, which says exactly how I know where Titan Uranus comes from. Also, welcome to all those who have joined the chat since I originally welcomed everyone. I'm not ignoring you guys, and as usual, there will be Q&A at the end. I will take all your questions. But yeah, this is making my brain twitch, because as much as you're joking about this,
you're using the same words.
Yeah, I don't think if you actually put this in some, like as a comment on the video, you wouldn't tell whether it was someone taking the piss or being serious.
Yeah.
I just know, I just know you well enough to know that you're taking them.
Yeah.
And no, Uranus, stop trying to sell me essential oils and crystals. I can make my own crystals if I need to. And know that, actually, that kind of sounded like I know how to make meth. I mean, I do. I have a chemistry major, but don't worry. I've never tried to. I swear some of my lecturers have.
Choose not to.
God, it's a nasty chemical. There are much better chemicals that are still fairly dangerous that I'd rather make.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a go at making nitroglycerin than that. And nitroglycerin will go off if you explode if you look at it wrong.
Yeah.
So let's see.
To accommodate this. And they had to make it also affordable. So then came the fourth generation. 4G and 4G LTE, or long-term evolution. Now remember, cancer rates jumped as this 4G technology was released.
So I don't think that's
true. And the network
true.
has yet again come to another phase of evolution because people use it now more than ever.
I'm remembering
folks, the 4G we are still using now
my
causes health
class
issues and have been for a while now.
2009.
So here we are
from a
at
prominent
5G.
Cancer researcher that said that if you do age-adjusted cancer rates, there has been no increase in cancer rates.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Now, that was one of the figures. I know I downloaded it ready for this. I'm trying to find it because I remember him saying that, and I'll play it again and I'll look for them. Also,
so he was saying that cancer rates, when 4G came out, cancer rates went up, and that's just not real.
I found my
walkie-talkies.
Yes, but like the proper ones with...
They're the good ones, not the ones like that children play.
Oh, they're out of battery. Anyway. Damn it. They're rechargeable. But I just want to point out that if we look at this, look at the size of this antenna. As I said, you cannot make antennas too short because these are longer wave radios. So you won't get the same quality or the same amount of information as your smartphone. And you can tell by the size of the antenna anyway.
Yeah.
But they pass enough information to work really well for just chatting. You just need to send information. But these aren't, but as Maddie was saying, you regulate for them. But still look how big that antenna is. And yes, you can shrink that down, but you're not going to get nano size. But anyway, I've got to keep this prop because I grabbed it and I'm definitely going to use it.
Okay.
But anyway,
so
let's see how...
What I wanted to say briefly was about cancer rates. So cancer, in a nutshell, is caused by when you have multiple failed gene regulation things in a row, right? So cancer is unregulated cell growth. And usually to make that and it just occurs in different parts of the body. And usually for that to happen, you need to have like an unfortunate mutation, but you need to have several of those in a row in order to get that unregulated cell growth. And so the older you live, the more times your cells have divided, the more chances you have to get those mutations, the more likely you are to get cancer. So people live longer now, which means we do see more cancer, but it's because other things aren't killing us younger and we're getting that enhanced, like more, again, we're living to be older, so we get more mutations, so you're more likely to get cancer. So it's not like I'm no more likely to get cancer than someone was 50 years ago, my same age. It's the age adjustment that's really important. Okay.
Yeah, and if you look at the graphs of even just the flat numbers, because they talk about like these massive spike in cancer.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I
said, I'm really trying to find some of those graphs because I've got those numbers for Australia and I can't find them. Oh, yes, this is professional.
I wish he would throw a graph up, right? Like his argument would be much more supported if he had a graph to support that statement.
Oh, he does. He has one reference, and I do want to get to it.
Okay.
Because that took me the longest to try and deal with when I first watched this video. And I went looking. Okay. And it took me a while because it's a proper paper. He actually cites a paper.
Okay.
And I was looking at it. I was trying to go through it. It's a full review. It's referencing other papers. I'm like, oh, this is going to be difficult to get through. Maybe there's something here. Then I did a Google Scholar search of the author, and I read 2 lines for another one of his papers, which I do want to see if I can repeat that search. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting and going, how did this make it into a medical journal?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is that whoever was the reviewer does not know physics.
Okay.
Anyway, while I keep searching for these graphs, which I think maybe I've somehow lost them, but I've got to keep going.
Okay.
Yes. See what happens.
Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of having a cell phone tower, we will have what's called a massive MIMO, which is a maximum input, maximum output antenna.
So I said he's good at reading from a website, although
needed to run 5G.
Not understanding it.
That is accessible by a device directly through a macro channel, okay? Each of these are placed at a macro base station. Each of these massive MIMOs are not just a single antenna, but they are a group of many antennas in one. These antennas emit millimeter wave frequencies,
reading from somewhere.
which is between 30 and 300 gigahertz, which is between microwaves and infrared waves, okay?
Yep.
There are also what's called small cells, placed at small cell base stations, so that transmission can go from the massive MIMO to the small cells, then to a user device on a small cell channel. These are placed everywhere because these direct beams don't.
Okay,
so here's the other thing, because when you get to shorter wavelengths, they're more likely to be stopped by things. They're more likely to be blocked. So if you have a block of concrete, or say when you drive into like an underground car park, the longer the wavelength, the further down into that car park you'll get before you lose the signal.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you can get things where they bounce in there, but if you just talk about how far through the radiation gets, it's generally the longer wavelengths. So with 5G, because we're getting the shorter wavelengths compared to the others, yes, it doesn't go as far before it gets blocked. The sides of buildings will block this well before it blocks the other one. So you kind of need these booster stations. And that's the one thing that you have to set up with 5G is all these enhancers everywhere. And that's all it is.
Yeah. And so I think
it's like setting up a series of street lights.
Yeah. I was actually immediately, the analogy I was thinking of is this is like the same way we transmit power, right? You have a big power station, right? And that sends power down power lines that goes through different smaller transformers that then sends it to your house, right? Because the signal or the amount of power degrades the further you try to pump it. Or you can think of this as setting up your home Wi-Fi network, right? If you live in a 2-story house, I bet you have a repeater upstairs if your main router is downstairs. It's the exact same thing, right? So we have big internet company that sends the signal to your router, and then you set up repeaters throughout your home to ensure that you have a strong Wi-Fi signal everywhere. This is what he's describing, what this picture is showing, is that on a like industrial scale. It's not, there's nothing scary or sinister about this except the music he's playing behind it.
Yes, the music is the scariest thing here. But it kind of gets me because it's that sort of rhetoric that really tries to play on people's fear, and it's a tactic that works, but it's deceptive.
Right.
I don't approve of it. It is,
and that's something that I
moral
found
to a point.
It's almost as important, I think, when we're reviewing videos like this. Of course, we're going to debunk the science, but also I like to take the time to point out the rhetoric, right? Because if you understand the way like scammers, right, like present information, right, if you understand the communication tools that they're using to put this forward, then it's a lot harder for you to get kind of sucked in because you understand these language tools that they have. I have a completely random question for you because I'm sitting here in my garage and I'm very cold because there's a ton of snow outside right now. We got our like one big snow for the year, which was 5 whole inches, right? Which is actually a lot for us. And then and then it's not the middle of winter where you are. So I just want to know how nice and warm it is where you are right now. That's all I want to know so I can daydream about it while I'm here in my like fleece and have my space heater on.
I can show you my temperature directly.
That
24 degrees inside.
Oh, and
I'm not running
50.
and that's cool though for summer. The last couple of days have been raining.
As I say, that sounds so nice though. That sounds like a beautiful temperature.
It's around 74 degrees Fahrenheit, around 70,
But,
that like the 70 mark, just above 70.
In the mid-70s, you only have like 50% humidity. That's like my
for the
ideal
moment,
day.
but we've had a few days where that humidity goes up and the temperature does.
Yeah.
It's a surprisingly wet summer here because of
Gotcha.
the El Nino La Nina cycle. We're
Yeah.
in the soaking part of it. So
I'm
we've had
really
a
glad you
lot
guys
of
are getting a
cool
wet summer,
days and
though.
warm, muggy nights.
Okay. Well, I'm really glad you guys are getting a solid amount of moisture because hopefully that will help mitigate forest fires and wildfires.
Yes, although there's not much left to burn based on what happened a few years ago. So
Okay. Sorry.
looks like
that's more fun to talk about.
Yes, I'm less likely to bash my head against the desk with that. But that's still an interesting one because I did actually look into it. I remember reading a few papers for the bushfires here because I did have to write something on it. It was for one of the courses I was doing. And yeah, there's a lot to it. But anyway, that's probably for a different day. Let's see now how this
I would love to have a conversation about the La Nina cycle and wildfires. That would be a great conversation.
I am not super familiar, but I do really want to learn. So yes, I'd love to be able to chat about that stuff. And yeah, so we'll probably and then we'll be in drought again for 7-8 years. That's normally how it goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. It's one or the other. Okay, now let's see how badly he can get science wrong.
Telling us how scary Wi-Fi repeaters are. That's what we're talking about.
Like to travel through buildings and such. Now, instead of using the waves we've been using to transmit in all directions, this system uses beamforming, which is like a tractor beam or ray that targets the small cell or device you're using directly.
I'm sorry, it's like a tractor beam. It's gonna pull me towards it.
I do actually have a video on my channel about how to make a tractor beam. It's
Excellent.
called I think it's something like stealing cows with a laser beam.
Excellent.
The only thing that you can do basically is you need to do is take a laser and focus it, and you can make a small scale tractor beam.
That's brilliant.
That's it.
Okay, I actually have a question because I'm not fully certain, not about tractor beams, but I'm not completely certain how the like radio engineering here works. My basic understanding is this: there's basically an inverse relationship between distance I can travel and amount of information I can pack into the signal. Is that
roughly, yeah, because the shorter the wavelength,
the like
I think, because I'm going off memory here because this is not something I've formally done, but it does make sense. The higher the energy, the photons, so the shorter the wavelength.
Right.
So if you're thinking in the visible, the equivalent would be going from red to blue. Although by the time you get to the visible, there's a lot of other things that will literally absorb the radiation from electronics. So, and by electronics, I mean electrons in atoms, not electrical circuits. So shorter wavelengths are more likely to interact and get absorbed, so or stopped by something.
Right.
So Yes, in terms of how far you can transmit a signal, the shorter the wavelength, the less distance it's going to go. There is also the other one that will play a part is scattering, which might be where that inverse relation comes in. That is why this sky is blue. Shorter wavelengths scatter more than longer wavelengths.
Yeah.
So beryllium scattering means that we see blue light, but it also means green lasers and blue lasers will be easier to see than red lasers. Green lasers more so than red, but that has something else to do with it. And I am trying to make a video on it, so I'm not going to ruin that answer for everybody. However, I need to actually get a permit from the firearms department to be able to keep and use the laser pointers I want to do for this test, because I can use them for my research. But as it turns out, when I actually tested them, they were way too powerful. And I have no idea how I managed to buy these legally over the counter. I just got them delivered. And then I was like, I was looking at the rating on them going, this is like, I was pointing them going, this isn't right. I deal with lasers on a daily basis. I know it can't be less than 1 milliwatt. I tested one of them and it was 66 milliwatts for a green laser that claimed it was less than 1. And I'm like, this is not legal, but anyway, I want to do a video on it, but I'm going to try and get permission to do it properly. So that's why that video hasn't come out, because it's just like, I can't film.
So my question was, I know I know the shorter the wavelength, the easier it is to shield, right? Or to scatter.
I think the scattering probably plays a part, because the shorter the wavelength, the more of it that's going to get sent out in other directions when it hits dust particles. So I think that might also be where you get your inverse law from, but I'd have to check.
But then what's the pro of using a smaller wavelength to transmit information?
Oh, you can transmit more information.
Okay. That's what I wanted to make sure.
Yeah. So the shorter the wavelength, the more waves that are coming in a given time, which means the more information you can encode, in a given time period.
Perfect.
Which is why the faster transmission ones, like going from 1G to 5G, are progressively getting shorter. It will get to the point where they won't be able to get short enough and transmit anything useful, which is why I think fiber optics are becoming more common, and we're trying to get that out, because you don't suffer from that same problem, because you can pass the light and it's just visible light. You can encode a lot of information on that. And you can actually they tend to be single mode, which just means you're only going to see like one peak. You're not going to have multi-layered signals, but you can still kind of do that. It gets really complicated really quick. But the range for fiber optics is much longer than it would be for anything shorter than 5G. You still need booster stations, but those are easy to do. Do booster stations without it.
Everything that Woodward TV is trying to make sinister is, if we wanted to have our cell phones be able to have, upload and download videos and stream and play games, we want to be able to do all of these things. That requires a lot of sending and receiving of information very quickly. We had to go to a shorter wavelength so we can pack in more information into the signal. But the trade-off of that is that the signal can't travel as far and remain a coherent signal. So we have to have more of these like boosters, which we can't just think of as a Wi-Fi repeater. That's my summary.
Oh, also, I found the graph.
Brilliant.
So here's the Australian rate. This is just the age standardized one. So there's no, there's nothing that's done to it statistically to try and balance for things. It's just the cancer rates per 100,000. By the way, he was saying 4G created a massive spike. 4G was introduced. This is only Australia, by the way, and it's from the Australian government. Was introduced in 2013. Right here. Oh, sorry. Right there.
Right there. That looks like a dip.
Yeah.
At least in the male rates.
Yeah. The thing is, apart from this one spike back in 94, which I think if you start looking at other ones and you look at certain cancer rates. Oh, yeah, here's another one I like. Age standardized rates. So this is the mortality rate too. So you can see
okay.
that as technology gets better, the deaths from it are going down. So if this was some conspiracy to kill everyone,
yeah, it's not a very good one.
They failed.
And was the other graph instances of cancer as opposed to mortality?
Yes, this one is,
okay.
I believe, this is just incident rates. Yeah.
So let's propose a few reasons why we might see that spike. One, improved access to healthcare, right? So people are getting diagnosed more. Two,
getting older.
Yeah, 2 people are getting older. 3 could be maybe there was some new screening that was developed that year, or close to that. And so all of a sudden you're seeing significantly more instances, but not more mortality because you're catching it earlier. Right. So
because it drops very quickly, which I think is the screening makes a lot of sense for that.
Yeah.
I think it's a good hypothesis.
You can't just look at that graph and know what's going on. I would look at that graph and as like a scientist and a researcher, I'd want to be like, that spike is interesting. I wonder what else was going on at that time. And then we want to look into it. But that's just, graphs can be used to be misleading, right? If you don't take the time to sit back and like, there's multiple explanations as to why there might be a spike. And that's like, maybe there was a lot more pollution. Listen, if you suddenly had like if a coal mine like exploded, right? Or that would cause at least a local spike, probably, right? Something like that.
The fact that it went down fairly quickly within a few years would probably tell, is why I'm like this. Like if Woodward's, don't even think it deserves to be a hypothesis, but I just can't think of another word that is appropriate to say on a live stream.
Yeah.
If it's true, it wouldn't be a spike like that. It would be a permanent increase because these didn't go away.
Right.
And he's trying to talk about how we're getting worse. You should see jump. It'd be like a step function, almost like jump.
And we should see the corresponding increase in mortality rate. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yes. We don't see any of that, which is why I like these graphs, because it just shows how much nonsense this is.
Yeah.
And that's why, even though there's been so much study done about do cell phones cause cancer, the statistic that says everything for me is since their introduction, the rate of particularly brain tumors and things has not increased. Not dramatically anyway, not that can be linked to other factors. There is no statistically significant link to phones. If they cause cancer, we would have seen that by now.
Yep, because everyone uses one.
Yes. And you might see a slight drop since texting became a thing, but we just don't see that. Right. It's just not a thing. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them then try and tell you these are the wrong statistics. It's all a cover up. It's a hoax. But if you're going to do that, you need to bring evidence. You need to have something. But these numbers are not. They're fairly accurate. Like why there's no lies here. But if you're going to say there's a spike, prove it.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that just shows how nonsense. I am tempted to skip a bit because I want to get to some of the juicier stuff, and this has been going for a while.
Beamforming electromagnetic frequencies.
Oh no! We got to catch that bit.
Technology will be created equal. All this is done to allow for an increase in user capacity, data storage, accessibility, and speed.
Yep. And those aren't bad
And this
things.
is basically how the 5G transmission works. But there is a catch.
Oh, okay.
And
What's the catch?
Are the EMF or electromagnetic frequencies that
my Woodward radar's just going off. It's just my nonsense detector is broken now after that, because these people don't understand what frequency means. I can guarantee you, he thinks of electromagnetic radiation frequencies as vibrational frequencies. They all do it. Anyway, I didn't say
this system puts out. What do EMFs do to you?
Stuff.
Well, first of all, let me read to you an abstract from the U.S. National Library of Medicine.
Oh, I've got a good one.
National Institutes of Health. Pay close attention. This is important. It reads,
Don't worry.
the most influential process of EMF impact on living organisms
Oh, okay.
is
Pause
its
for a
direct
second. I am
tissue
so mad at
penetration.
him because the image on screen is unrelated to the source he just cited, but he said it as if this thing we're looking at is from the National Institute of Health.
But it's not.
But it's not. There's no, right? That's like, so he's reading from a source while putting this up there, right? Correlating those. That is a not
I would have a
technically a
guess.
lie, but very misleading communication.
Oh no, I would go out and say that this is deceptive to the same point of lying. This is basically, whether it was deliberate or not, I don't know, but it is, when you have an audience that big, you have a responsibility. So
Absolutely.
I don't care if it was deliberate or not. That doesn't change the fact that this is deceptive.
Right.
There's no doubt about that.
So deceptive.
But here's the thing. I'm not 100% sure exactly where he's getting this from, but in that I haven't checked the source because we don't need to. But I think what he's doing is he's reading from a source that's talking about radiation at shorter wavelengths. Remember we talked about ionizing versus non-ionizing?
Mm-hmm.
What these woo people don't ever get or ever explain, I think it's slightly deliberate on his part, is they treat all electromagnetic radiation the same.
Right.
So somehow gamma rays, X-rays, UV rays, visible, infrared, microwaves, and radio waves are all the same.
Right.
The only thing they have in common is the fact that they're electromagnetic radiation. Their interactions with matter are incredibly different.
Yeah. So
the reason that they're different is how I have a job and doing a PhD. The teaching I do, particularly because I also teach spectroscopy to high school students on top of lab demoing. My PhD, which is in spectroscopy, my honors, which was also to do with light matter interactions.
Yeah.
The fact that these wavelengths do different things is exactly how I have a living, if you can call it that.
So, sorry, I was just going to say for everybody in the audience, the reason we keep referring to ionizing radiations, what that means is that the photon, I have an atom in this hand, right? Got an atom over here, and I have a photon over here. And if this photon has enough energy, it can come in, and the energy of that photon can be given to an electron, and it's enough energy for that electron to break away and go and have its rebellious teenage phase. But now what we're left with is an atom that's missing an electron, and it really wants to go find another electron, right? So this is damaging to you and I because our bodies are very carefully chemically balanced systems. And when you start to have an atom doing chemistry where it's not supposed to be doing chemistry, right? Bad things can happen. That's my...
And this is what you need to, if you want to cause cancer from this sort of radiation, is that end effect of this is that it will damage DNA. It will physically damage the molecules.
Exactly. Because
DNA
is just
the frequencies we're dealing with,
messing with it.
Wavelengths we're dealing with here for 5G are way too long wavelengths or lower frequencies to do this. They physically cannot do this damage.
They just don't have enough energy to kick that electron out.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I've also noticed the common symptoms of microwave sickness / electrosensitivity. I actually went looking for this.
Yeah.
The most favorable source in his favor that I could find was a review article that said, by the way, the WHO says the same, but I found a review article that says, we have studied reviews for the last several decades. We've looked at studies that come to different conclusions. The best conclusion is that we don't have enough information to conclude that this is a real thing. Basically, we need to do more work. There is no evidence for this disease. And most of them, all the papers I've read, the bits of the papers I read, all acknowledge that the symptoms cannot be distinguished from basically a placebo or pre-existing conditions that people are misinterpreting. There was not a single paper that I read, or at least review that, and a review paper is basically where they actually look at a lot of different papers in the literature and do a summary, and then publish it formally.
By the way, team, if you are especially like not an expert in a field and you want to learn about it at that at the most advanced level that it's at, find yourself a review paper. They tend to be some of the best written papers, and you don't get bogged down in the specifics of individual experiments. It's just sort of a collection of all the knowledge. So if you're learning about a new subject, review papers are really great places to start.
Yep.
Anyway,
they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just so misleading, because not only does this disease, do we have no evidence for it existing. Right. Now, as of yet, these papers did conclude that they can't rule them out.
Well, fair enough. That's fair enough, because there's effectively no way to do that, right? It's this thing that, of course, look, there's no reason why Bigfoot can't exist. We've just never found him. Right. And at some point you've got it. The more reasonable conclusion is that Bigfoot doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But there's no way to prove a negative.
Yes. Now, whether we get to the very end, I'm not sure, but there is a next bit that is the meat that I really want, that we need to get to.
Okay. Let's jump.
Although this is kind of getting into the meat, so I don't mind talking a bit here, because because this is the main crux of his problem, and it's just so flawed. These foundations will crumble.
The current established standards of exposure to EMFs in Poland and in the rest of the world are based on the thermal effect. It is well known that weak EMF could cause all sorts of dramatic non-thermal effects in body cells.
Sure can.
As I just said, there is no evidence that actually is the case. It's just because so many people complain about it that they keep looking into it.
Yeah.
It is just scientists keeping an open mind and being overly cautious.
That's why there's been so many studies into, are there links between vaccines and autism? And because people are, right? And the answer keeps being no.
Yeah. And it's something that none of these papers have ever come out and concluded this definitely exists. I could not find one that did it. Maybe there are, but yeah, there's no evidence. Now, is there some mechanism that we've all missed so far that might cause some minor amount of damage? Possibly.
Yeah, it's not impossible. It's not super probable.
No.
And again, we have no evidence of it, and we do keep looking. So I wouldn't worry about it. Of all the things that can kill you, right? It's not going to be your cell phone.
No. There are much bigger things to worry about.
Yeah.
Tissues and organs. The observed symptoms are hardly to assign to other environmental factors occurring simultaneously in the human environment. Although there are still ongoing discussions on non-thermal effects of EMF influence. On May 31st, 2011, International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, Agenda of World Health Organization, WHO, has classified radio electromagnetic fields to a category 2B as potentially carcinogenic.
I love that, because it just shows how stupid this argument is.
Yeah.
Potentially carcinogenic. The definition is literally, we don't have evidence for it causing cancer, but we can't rule it out. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Now, there are several reasons you can make it onto this 2B list of possible carcinogens.
Yeah.
One is it's a chemical that is related to other chemicals, so it's chemically similar to another known carcinogen. A really good example of this that I have used extensively and have spilt on my hands multiple times is chloroform and dichloromethane.
Okay.
Which are basically methane molecules, so like single carbon with some hydrogens, and you start switching the hydrogens for chlorines. If you switch all 4 hydrogens for 4 chlorines, for anyone who's wondering, that's tetrachloromethane. That is a known carcinogen. Chloroform and dichloromethane have less chlorines. There isn't any proven evidence that they're carcinogenic, but they carry the label possible carcinogens.
Okay. Just because...
But there are other things that have made this list in the past. But do you know what my favorite thing that makes this list that just shows how silly... Oh, they're a possible carcinogen, therefore it's evil?
Yeah. What you got?
aloe vera.
Excellent.
Yes. Congratulations. EMF radiation has now made the same level as aloe vera.
In terms of possibly causing cancer, possibly being carcinogenic.
Now, to be on that list, you cannot be on that list and also have evidence showing that you're carcinogenic, because then you make it onto the proper carcinogenic lists.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, though, it's fear-mongering at this point, but the rhetoric is still strong. It's a powerful rhetoric. You play on people's fears. We have a science background. We're used to this. We know that there's rigorous definitions. So we hear that, but like, no, we're going to go check, which is exactly what I did. But that is not how most people behave, because we can't afford to do that with all the claims we hear. We would spend so much of our life just wasted looking stuff up.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think the important, so one of the main takeaways for me is, when a good tool of being able to identify misleading rhetoric, right, or manipulative rhetoric, which is definitely what he's using, is, well, then that's someone that you don't need to pay attention to their argument, right? Because they're trying to mislead you. They're trying to, you know what I mean? So if you want to save your time of what should I spend my time researching, not people who talk like this, you know?
No. You will never hear a scientist talk about even known carcinogens like this.
Right. No.
It's just the language in science is so precise, and most of them deliberately go to great lengths to not be fear-mongering. Now, that doesn't mean people don't. It can happen. But generally speaking, when you look at proper, scientific publications and you read it, it's generally a big red flag if I see fear-mongering in it. Anyone who seems to have an agenda who's trying to convince you of something is another big red flag, but it can be hard to spot that, because this guy has done the full, I'm not trying to be conspiratory. I'm not trying to just yell at you guys. I'm here because I want to help.
Right.
And as much as we make fun of it, it is powerfully dangerous.
It is.
Because that's how you get people on board with this. And once you get them on board with something like this, they start having a mistrust for science, which means they don't follow medical advice, and it gets people killed.
Exactly.
So, yes, this is fairly laid back because, I mean, yes, people have actually done some physical and monetary damage and have hurt people because the protests about 5G.
Yeah.
But you're going to get protests about everything. Even if you ignore that, though, even if this is not too dangerous compared to, say, anti-vax ones, once you start mistrusting people's sites on this, you're more likely to buy into these other ones, and the rhetoric doesn't change.
Right.
Anyway.
So for me, really big red flags are when so the person or group that would benefit from this big old conspiracy, right, or from this, they're never specified or identified, right? Because it's who, so why is someone doing this crazy thing, and how are they going to benefit from it, right? Those are legitimate questions, who specifically and why do they want to do it? And so if the person talking isn't answering those, then again, it's not worth listening to. But anyway.
Generally, in terms of scientific consensus, most of them, when they talk about benefits, it's for society. Not always, yes, because scientists are human, but generally speaking, most of the time, it's, say, if you look at other contentious issues like climate change, it's the same thing. It's no, we need to fix this because we're all on the planet together.
Yeah.
It's very clear that it's we don't want to get rich off this. You don't go into science to get rich. Very few scientists make it big in terms of financial gain. Right. Most people will never be rich. Choosing to do science is a sacrifice almost of ever being wealthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I said, there are a few exceptions, but there's so few that it's not worth it. You go into finance, go work for a big company, go work for a pharmaceutical. Yes, you can get rich if you're a chemist in the right area there, but not Not like research.
Not a
institution.
research. Yeah, there is not much money in research. Like
my current stipend is comparable to minimum wage. I think either right on or right below minimum wage for full-time work.
I'm making more than minimum wage, but not a whole lot. If I drop
but our minimum wage is
a
bit better than
job,
yours too.
That's
so
true.
Like in the States.
Yeah.
But yes,
ours is still $7.25 an hour.
Yeah. And yes, we'll get a bit more once we finish PhDs, but you don't do this to get rich.
You're not getting rich off of it.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see what he says.
Electromagnetic fields can be dangerous not only because of the risk of cancer, but also other health problems, including electromagnetic hypersensitivity, EHS.
Yeah, that's the one. But we've discussed that.
Electromagnetic hypersensitivity is a phenomenon characterized by the appearance of symptoms of non-specific multiple organ symptoms,
we've already discussed this,
including both acute and chronic inflammatory processes.
Nope,
located and musculoskeletal associated with any known combination of many sources. Reported symptoms associated with electromagnetism may be associated with a single source of EMF or be derived from a combination of many sources.
There is no evidence for any of this.
Reported symptoms associate multiple sources of EMF. The phenomenon of electromagnetic hypersensitivity in the form of dermatological disease is associated with mastocytosis.
Big fancy
The
words.
biopsies taken from skin lesions of patients with EHS indicated an infiltration of the skin layers of the epidermis with mastocytes and their degranulation.
I don't think he understood a single word that he just said.
I don't think he understood a single word, and I can't think of a mechanism, right? Like I'm trying to find.
Oh, don't worry, we will get to the mechanism.
Okay.
This will be fun. Don't worry, we're getting there.
I'm
trying to find the part where he makes reference to his one paper, and I am also going to try in the background to track this video down so I can directly find this paper as well to have up if we need it. But yeah, we will get there. Don't worry.
Excellent.
As well as on release anaphylactic reaction mediators such as histamine, chymase, and tryptase.
I couldn't find anything.
The number of people suffering from EHS in the world is growing, describing themselves as severely dysfunctional, showing multi-organ non-specific symptoms upon exposure to low doses of electromagnetic radiation, often associated with hypersensitivity to many chemical agents, multiple chemical sensitivity, MCS, and or other environmental intolerances, sensitivity-related illnesses, SRI. Now, after you have just heard all of that,
this is actually from a paper.
Okay, so
I'm trying to find this paper because I do want to actually show that this is one, but
So the argument is that, like low energy EM waves can give specifically calcium ions, which calcium ions just exist. That's part of your nervous system. Works by turning different ions, so some positive and some negative, anions and cations. You put those across like a barrier. This is like how your nervous system works, and then that creates an electric charge. So there's an electric potential that turns into an electric signal. That's what's transmitted through your nerves. And so there's this constant balance of like a chemical signal turning into an electric signal, turning into a chemical signal, turning into an electric signal, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, that's my like 8th grade science explanation. So calcium ions should just be around. That's fine.
I think, sorry, I dropped out. I think I dropped out for a moment.
Okay, good. You missed my 8th grade biology explanation.
Yeah, but somehow they. Don't worry, I am now trying to find this video.
So they're saying that we give energy to this calcium ion that allows it to pass through the cell membrane and into a cell, and then it does stuff.
apparently. All right. We're going to do a little bit of an explore here because I want to do this because I want to show people how I approach this. So here's the paper he's getting this from. This is his only reference. It has a single author, Martin L. Paul, and the title is Wi-Fi is an Important Threat to Human Health. Now, this was published in a fairly legitimate journal. I can't find anything that tells me this journal is known for pseudoscience. It might be, but at least a cursory glance doesn't ring any alarm bells. However, this guy, there is one person who he's gotten to fights with and someone who has claimed that everything that Martin L. Paul talks about is cherry-picked pseudoscience and it's single study. You might have a dozen studies on the same thing and he'll pick the one that agrees with it and then just go through a bunch of different topics. Mm-hmm. But that's a bit of back and forth. Now, this was published in Environmental Research, which, as I said, seems to be a legitimate journal. So let's have a brief look at the abstract.
My one concern there is that it's not a medical journal and it's not like a public health journal and it's not a physics journal, right? Which seems to be the intersection of what this actual field is. Yes. Anyway.
Now, here's one. Start. Repeated Wi-Fi studies show that Wi-Fi causes oxidative stress, sperm/testicular damage, psychiatric effects, including EEG changes, apoptosis, cellular DNA damage, endocrine changes, and calcium overload, which is what that image was trying to talk about. As far as I can tell, outside of the papers he references here, there does not seem to be any evidence for it. I also do not buy his mechanism. It goes against everything I know as a physicist.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of references here. Like, this is a very thorough paper. So let's have a look. Oh, is it going to... Hopefully. Let me just download. Sorry, everyone gets to see my files.
So while you're looking for that, can you summarize the mechanism for me? Because looking at that picture,
I still don't fully understand it. I don't think this guy knows it, but let's go to the part of the paper and see what the figure describes about it and see if we can get a bit more, because I have read this several times. By the way, like, this was definitely made in PowerPoint. I mean, nothing against that. I have made figures in PowerPoint, but this is a mess.
Yeah.
But it looks so scientific. And as far as I can tell, it's in a science journal. And this is why this gets a little alarming. However, look, see, calcium signaling, basically it's somehow it makes calcium more likely to do things it shouldn't. And then you get inflammation from it. And inflammation equals bad.
Okay.
That's what I seem to get out of this. I'm not as au fait with the... is that... Oh, is that... I swear that figure is in here. Huh.
Okay.
Maybe it's not. I thought there was more than one figure, but this is basically what he was doing.
Okay.
So here's the calcium one, the calcium signal, and it just like... Here's the bit that also gets me.
Okay.
Free radicals and then oxidative stress.
There
is not enough energy.
Yeah.
And he's coming up with this really complicated one, but I cannot back this up. However, this is what kind of finished it for me, was when...
Sorry, what is...
And I really hope I can repeat this. I take his name.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I'm not using incognito or anything is because I'm trying to log in through my university one, so none of this is behind a paywall.
Yeah.
And I put his name in. Now, I'm trying to look for a very specific paper, so if you want to add anything, let me know. Oh, by the way, there's the paper we were looking at.
No, my question was, he used an acronym that I didn't understand, and it was like VGCG activation. Do you know what that is?
No.
Because it was like the EMF is supposed to cause that, and then the calcium does stuff. So I don't know if it's like, but if the premise, so like a photon, so a photon can give something energy. A photon isn't going to give a whole atom kinetic energy. right?
I'm just going to switch back to just for a
Document
moment,
of research
just because I want to try and check something in the back. I'm not going to distract everyone with that. Sorry.
VGCCs, EMF activation of VGCCs. What in the world is that? Because to me, that's like what it's trying to say is, because something activation, I'm thinking of like activation energy for a chemical reaction. But
yep, I found it. So
okay.
I still don't get that, but this is okay. This is what I did. So I started looking up other papers he wrote to see if I can see what this guy's understanding of the physics is.
Yeah. And
you can, a lot of this is fairly similar. You can see the different years. So he's been going on for a while. He's quite prolific. Journal of Chemical Neuroanatomy, Journal of Cellular and Molecular Medicine. So he's publishing in reasonable journals.
Mm-hmm.
So I came down to this one, millimeter, and this wasn't the only one I went through. I went through a couple and found this one. Millimeter, wave and microwave frequencies radiation produce deeply penetrating effects on biology and physics. And you look at this and it starts reading fairly formal like a paper. I do understand this is a little small, unfortunately. It's just how the paper ones. But I'll read the first line just to give people an idea. Millimeter wave, wave electromagnetic fields, which is basically what the wavelengths we're looking at for 5G, are predicted not to produce penetrating effects in the body. The electric but not magnetic part of EMFs are almost completely absorbed within the outer 1 mil of the body. That started ringing alarm bells. So let's jump forward ahead a little bit. And some people will do that. But here we where is that? Oh, sorry, I'm trying to find. I've lost the place.
Okay. Well, while
I think he kind of goes.
Okay.
So okay, I think maybe next time. Here we go.
Voltage gated calcium channel. That's VGCC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now. So he's pretty much saying that the radiation doesn't cut through as the electromagnetic part, like the electric part of the field, which started to get going. Something seems wrong.
Yeah.
So we come from here. The fixed relationship between electrical and magnetic fields found in EMFs in a vacuum or highly permeable medium such as air, predicted by Maxwell's equations, breaks down in other materials.
Citation needed.
No.
Because that's not real. That's EM.
That is not.
Yeah. EM waves are EM waves. You can't separate the electric field from the magnetic field because one causes the other. That's what Maxwell's equations tell us.
If you get rid of one, you lose it. And here's the thing. This is why you cannot bend light with a magnet. You cannot bend it with an electrical field.
Right.
These are not electric and magnetic fields that interact independently like electricity or a magnet would.
Yeah.
You cannot separate them. But this guy has just said a sentence that if he'd submitted this to a physics paper, the reviewers would have laughed at him.
Yeah.
This is not even high school level physics.
Yeah.
This was stuff that a first year physicist would probably have alarm bells, but it's written in such a formal way.
And it gets through student
somewhat
should
scary.
have alarm bells going off.
Now, I am still trying to find the paper where he says this even more explicitly, so I will keep searching. But I just wanted to point that out, that the level we're dealing with.
But
this is someone here, his only reference has one author, and this one author does not understand physics.
Yeah. So something I want to point out, this VGCC is voltage gated calcium channel. So that should mean that in order for calcium to go through this channel, it has to have a minimum energy, like a minimum voltage. Is that?
Sounds about right.
That sounds about right. That doesn't sound completely insane to me. That the idea that there are voltage gated calcium channels, like I think that's how cells work, at least like nerve cells. But this would then propose that the the photon, because again, keep in mind, it's a photon. It's not, you can throw lots of photons at it, but their effects don't add up. So that one photon can provide enough voltage to overcome that gate. No. Right? Not it. No. No. Because like even ionizing radiation, it's hard to get enough energy in there to get an electron to escape, let alone give energy.
I normally don't like interrupting.
No, go ahead.
But I just have to. Okay, let's have a look. When was this published? I just need to get the year because that's in 2016. Soviet and Western literature shows that much of the impact of non-thermal microwave exposures, etc., etc. A 2016 paper on Science referencing the Soviet Union.
Wow.
I did not expect to find that, but yeah. I told you this. It got juicy.
Yeah.
And he keeps talking about it, and I still cannot understand how he's doing this.
Yeah.
And this is a 2016 paper that's referencing studies from the 70s and 80s. And yes, that's not normally bad, but surely there's more newer ones.
Surely there's more recent literature. And my mic ran away from me.
Oh, that's all right.
There we go.
It doesn't want to deal with all this. But there is still one line. I'm desperately looking for one line of his that was... It made me laugh and then cry on the inside.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it because he is published quite profusely, and finding the exact reference, because Google Scholar doesn't always show you the same order every time depending on new publications. But yeah, he's gone up. The other one that he was showing is 2018, and I can see all the way up to 2021 was the paper, that the first one we looked at. Like, not the original review, but the first one under his name that we looked at. So he's still going.
Okay. Jeez.
Anyway, that's probably enough of the specifics for this. I will keep looking for these brilliant lines, which I hope to bring up. But anyway, let's see what he says. I may skip bits because we are getting on. I do want to see.
You can find this at researchgate.net.
We did
I'll leave the URL in generative disease.
We did that.
Cellular DNA damage, a process causing cancer and germline mutations.
Yeah, but you can't show what happens.
Non-thermal EMF exposures, including 9 central nervous system effects, 4
he's just reading from the paper.
Yeah, he's just making stuff up.
Voltage-gated calcium channels.
Yeah, that's the one he's looking at.
It says here,
yeah,
the main pathophysiological effects of EMF exposures are produced via excessive calcium signaling and the peroxynitrite pathway. Peroxynitrite levels are elevated because both nitric oxide and superoxide are elevated by increased calcium, with nitric oxide and superoxide reacting with each other to form peroxynitrite.
Yeah, what is
peroxynitrite and its CO2 adduct can break down to produce reactive free radicals, hydroxyl radicals.
There is some truth to part of this, in that if you do end up, as we mentioned earlier, with electrons, like you rip electrons off, they will first create charges, but then they can go on to make what is known as free radicals, which are basically atoms that are neutral but are not chemically stable. They have a spare electron, and they want to react and attack the first thing they come across. This is actually a good way to create cancerous cells because it is really good at attacking DNA. The thing is, there's no evidence that this is actually occurring.
Right.
And there is no... I cannot see how this mechanism can work. There just is not enough energy.
Yeah. So I just Googled voltage-gated calcium channels. And it's exactly what we're thinking. Like, to make it there. It's in neurons, right? It's in nerve cells. So this like circle cell is actually throwing me off because that's not the normal shape of a neuron. But anyway, you have like thousands of calcium ions on the outside, and then that gets the appropriate charge, and then they can go through, right?
Oh, sorry, I found the line.
Okay, let me just
we'll get back to it. Sorry, I just got excited.
Okay. And that like triggers the release of neurotransmitters, right? So that's this thing. So he's proposing that there's enough energy in low energy photons to artificially, like, it somehow has to be giving voltage, right? Giving actual voltage to.
But they don't have enough energy to do that.
Right, they don't.
Because to have a voltage, you need to pull electrons away. Right. You need to move electrons off their atom. They physically don't have the energy to do this.
Right. So like you can give this calcium atom all the energy in your photon you want. That's not going to change the chemical potential across that gate.
It's like trying to knock a house down with a wrecking ball. If your wrecking ball is a tennis ball, it doesn't matter how many I throw at the brick wall, they're not going to break it.
Right, exactly.
There's just not enough energy. I physically have to start going to denser and larger and like balls that will contain more kinetic energy when they hit the house.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not going to demolish a house with ping pong balls, and we're not talking about burying them so they sit there, just like literally just throwing them against a brick wall.
Right.
I need more energy per one, because it doesn't matter if I have 100,000 ping pong balls. I'm not going to get through a brick.
Right.
But I can have a single high energy, steel ball, and I can crush a brick with it.
Yeah.
And this is the one that's not intuitive, because we tend to think of the brighter light has more energy, and it does, but the individual photons don't have more energy, and they don't have enough. It's like they're trying to jump over a barrier if we want another one. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how many I throw at it. If no individual one has the energy to jump over the barrier, none of them get over the barrier. They don't stack.
Right.
Sorry. Hopefully people get that. If anyone wants to ask questions on this, please in the chat. Please, you can ask us questions. I'll go over anything again. Anyway, I found the line. It was actually in that original paper.
Okay.
I just kind of missed it. So it was just slightly. Oh, okay. I zoomed in and slightly lost it. Oh, you're here. So we were very close.
Thank you.
It was I just needed to keep going. It was actually, so that's where we were reading. This is the bit we got. So we got to, Maxwell's equations break down in other medium. That's how far we got. Wave electrical fields are almost completely absorbed by the outer 1 millimeter of the body due to the high electrical dielectric constant of biological aqueous phases. Fancy nonsense for that. So far is correct in that dielectric just means the electrons can move around. So if you hit it with this radiation, they respond and it gets absorbed. This is why you can't send radio signals to a submarine that's dived. Salt water has salt with charges that can move around. It's why metals make really good radiation shielding, because you can move the electrons around. That's all it is. So far, so good. However, that would absorb the whole photon. The photon just gets absorbed. It's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. There is a skin depth, so you can get a small distance. But however, the magnetic fields are very highly penetrating. Somehow he's separating and saying the electric fields get blocked, the magnetic fields do not.
That's not
Two things
real.
Here. I don't know how this got published, because this is so scientifically inaccurate that this guy needs to go back to high school. 1, you cannot separate them. The photon is a packet of energy. It is both electric and magnetic fields alternating, because you have wave-particle duality. You cannot get rid of one without the other. That packet of energy is either absorbed or it isn't. It's either scattered or it isn't. It's in that whole packet of energy cannot be broken into constituent parts. easily. The only way you can break it is if you absorb it and on the way down release 2 lower energy photons. But we can't do that here because we don't have the energy to actually meet one of these transmissions in the first place. And even if we found a system that you won't probably find in biology that could do this, you're making lower energy photons, which makes it even safer.
And those low energy photons are now still two electromagnetic waves. We didn't separate it into an electric part and a magnetic part.
And here's the thing. Magnets don't damage biological tissue. Has this person who should know ever seen an MRI scanner? Like,
magnets don't hurt
yes,
you.
Magnetic fields are penetrating, but you can't, I mean, even if you could separate it from light, your phone has a magnet in it, your screen has a magnet in it. I have worked next to NMR machines, which are like more powerful than MRI scanners.
Yeah.
I've worked next to mass spec machines. They don't do anything.
Yeah. What's his citation? Do you see?
There isn't one.
No, but it says 3.
No,
right?
he's listing points.
Oh.
So the review focuses on several issues. There are
I thought that was like going to link.
This is the abstract, so you don't always find sources in that abstract, but the lack of scientific understanding there is so poor.
That's astonishing.
And this is the source that Woodward has, the single source.
Carbon.
Sorry. I think on that we should get a little bit further, and then I'm just gonna. We'll probably end up going a little bit over the 2 hours, if that's all right, Maddie.
Yeah, that's all right. I want to make sure we leave time for questions.
Yes, because even if we have to go a bit over time, I don't mind. I will open this up to questions.
Okay.
Because I definitely want to give the people who have stayed in the chat for this long or have stayed for a while now, I got to let you guys ask whatever you want.
Yeah.
Even if you want to ask about dinosaurs because this has hurt our brains too much, I don't care. That's how I do. But yeah, this is my brain is breaking down from this. Oh, I need another tea after this. But anyway. Oh, no, sorry. I just saw something else in this. I got to read this to people.
Okay.
Time-varying coherent magnetic fields, as predicted by the Maxwell-Faraday version of Faraday's law of induction, can put forces on ions dissolved in aqueous phases deep within the body. Piss off. That is probably some of the most pseudoscientific garbage I've found in a proper paper. Yes, there are journals that are not proper that probably have worse because there are still journals that support homeopathy and young earth creationism. No, but like for what seems to be a legitimate paper, this is
nonsense.
My brain is stopping. Anyway, let's see what Woodward, who somehow takes this and makes it even dumber. I don't know how that's possible, but he's managed it. Let's see where he goes. Unless you want to add anything else.
No, I'm good. Let's see where he goes.
Radicals and NO2 radicals, which produce oxidative stress. These various oxidants act to produce greatly elevated NF cumulative and are developed over time as the EMFs around us are increased. I encourage everyone to go and read this report. A lot of important information there.
No, I don't.
Again, the link will be in the description box below.
Report. I mean, if you don't trust us...
Now, the question many have been asked...
You can check sources. Like, I am not discouraging. If you want to do it just so you can check that what we're presenting and what we're saying is all right, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But don't read it in the sense that he's telling you.
Right.
Read it, but read the other sources. Balance it out. Anyway.
Yeah.
And look at what the critics say. Don't just read that source. That's probably what I should have started with. Oh, this photo annoys me because I've seen it everywhere. This is an easy image to find, but it frustrates me.
Think of the children.
Yeah, but that's the rhetoric. You will find, I found it with, I mean, not as much with flat earthers because they're not as intelligent, though they do it, but it is particularly strong with young earth creationists and anti-vaxxers. Yeah. They pull the think of the children's line because emotion sells.
Yeah.
One of the advices I got, if you want to make a convincing science, or if you want to make a convincing science story, pull the emotion string because it is so easy to pull. And if it's legitimate, go for it. It's a good way of getting a message. Like if you do it for something like climate change that is demonstrably damaging And yes, we need to think of the next generation. So literally think of the children.
Well, a great way is if I'm going to tell you, like, the planet's warming and we're losing ice and that's bad, right? That doesn't resonate with you. But if I tell you that we're losing sea ice to the point that, like, indigenous people that hunt on the ice, right? Their like year-to-year maps of where it's safe to hunt on the ice they don't work anymore, to the point that there's been multiple times where they were out, like, on the ice with dog sleds, and the person had to be rescued via helicopter, but the dogs were left and died, right? Like,
and this is not to mention all the coastal villages as well that are getting flooded.
Right, exactly. So, like, talking about the real human impact of a phenomena I think that is important, because it's important to ground the science into something that anybody can relate to.
And as I said, stories, there is a lot of science behind stories and how they work on the brain. And there is some brilliant literature. If people actually want me to do a stream on it, I've got a couple of papers in mind that I can go through, because there's actually a couple of papers on storytelling in science and whether we should do it or not, and how to tell a good story, and some of the things you can do with it. Like, you can use stories to basically reduce the chance of people reoffending crimes. You can reduce crimes by getting people to sign up to a book club. Stories are powerful.
Do you want to know my favorite fact about human evolution that I learned from, I think, watching Guts It Given?
I'll go for it.
Okay, the thing that actually separates humans from other animals, the one thing that we can do that no one else can do, right? It's not use tools, right? It's not our big brains. It is our ability to empathize with someone who isn't in front of us. And we can, right? So we can empathize with people of the past, which means we can also empathize with fictional characters, right? We can feel emotions for beings that we can't see. And that is uniquely human.
Yeah, when we hear or we watch or we read, we listen to these stories, our brain, the chemical reaction in our body and brain basically mimics the same as if we were physically in that situation ourselves.
Yeah.
It is so cool. It's just this weird evolutionary side where, and you can tell it has derived from things that we find in the animal kingdom, but just humans have just gone that bit further. And
I think that's super cool.
Yeah, because humans haven't survived as well as we have because we're stronger than any other, or because our brains are bigger. It's just we have the right part of the brain. It's that social bit. It's that storytelling. It's we can have groups and we can bond with each other in a way that is stronger than any other animal on this planet. And that's what they reckon is why we're the only human species left. Because the others couldn't do it to the same degree. We were just better at working together when we needed to. It's just in large groups. Clearly, that doesn't always work. But in small tribal units, that bond is just strong. Like, humans have larger, like, even back at the same time as Neanderthals or Denisovans or Denisovans. I still haven't found the correct way to say that one.
I don't know.
All the fossil records show that we were in bigger groups than they were, or at least most likely had bigger, more well-established groups. But like Neanderthals were fairly sociable. They looked after each other. They wore makeup. They made jewelry. They made artwork. But their tools don't advance like us. And you can see that their artwork is more primitive than us. We weren't stronger. Neanderthals were much stronger than we were. I mean, look at gorillas. They, like, in terms of toughness,
they can rip us apart.
A 100-kilo human, or an 80-kilo human and an 80-kilo gorilla, the gorilla will still be something like 10 times stronger than the human. It's ridiculous, almost order of magnitude.
Yeah.
We're not successful because we're particularly clever in terms of being able to physically do things, or we're particularly strong. It's the interactions we can do. But in this case, it is also a trap because it means we can fall. People can prey on that. And I think that has also came up when we were discussing to some extent the PragerU video that we did on your channel and the anti-vax one, the Dr. Tenpenny.
Yeah.
Which please, guys, go watch those videos afterwards because it's,
those were painful.
But if somehow you don't mind watching us suffer and you're enjoying this one, you got to go watch those.
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, that comes full circle back to think of the children. Anyway, we should probably let him speak.
Yeah, let's see what he says for a little bit, and then let's get to Q&A.
Is what is the relationship between 5G and this bug that is going around?
Nothing.
Well, what you need to know is that viruses are real. This
finally
virus
something scientific that we agree on.
That's true.
Now 5G doesn't help. It makes it worse. But do not try replacing one threat with another. They are both separate things that unfortunately both affect your health in a negative way, depending on your sensitivity and the shape your health is in. 5G can exacerbate the effects the bug can have on the body. It can cause disease and inflammation, but 5G does not spread the bug. People do.
Okay.
People are thinking that 5G is what's causing...
Credit.
Yeah, I'll give him a few centimeters
he gets this
of credit.
Much credit.
Yeah.
For acknowledging that the virus is real.
He does lose that credit fairly quickly.
Fatalities, because 5G produces symptoms that can be mistaken for some type of infection. Do you follow me?
No, they can't.
But viruses and superbugs are efficient at doing that all by themselves. But fortunately, there is a way to protect yourself from 5G EMFs. The best way to protect yourself from EMFs is exactly the same way you protect yourself from this bug.
Told you he loses
it.
It's all
about
quickly.
What you eat.
It's not.
It's your health. It's nutrients. God designed us with all of this in mind, folks. He knew this was coming. Our bodies are equipped to handle EMFs. What you want are antioxidants.
No.
Omega-3 fatty acids.
If your body is not capable of removing toxins, you need a doctor, not a liver supplement. You don't need more antioxidants. Your body makes its own. If your body is struggling to deal with oxidative stress, you need a hospital.
Yeah.
I told you, he loses that credit very quickly. Yeah. Basically, you can get rid of COVID and 5G by eating well. Now, the only part I kind of agree is that if you eat well, you're not going to feel the effects of 5G. That bit I agree with.
I mean, if you don't eat well, that's also true.
Yes, that's true as well. So, yeah, but basically, yeah, you're not going to feel 5G. So, yeah, if you eat well, you're not going to feel 5G. But anyway.
Yeah. Can I just... Okay, I'm gonna pull a weird flex for a second. One, I think there's there's this idea that's really pervasive in our society. That's like, if you just, if you can find the right diet, and I don't mean that necessarily in a weight loss way, but I mean if you can just eat the right foods, and do the right exercise program, right, and take care of yourself in the right way, right, you meditate and all this, then you'll never get sick and live forever, right? It's this weird, I think it's this weird chasing mortality thing that we do, of we want to have control over our health, and the sad reality is that we don't, and we never have, right?
We have some control, but it's limited.
We have limited. There's no amount of salmon that I can eat that's going to stop me from having asthma, right?
I know it wouldn't stop me from trying, but that's more because I like salmon.
Right. I love salmon. It's delicious. But you know what I mean? There's no foods I can eat that's going to stop that from happening. There's
no diet that will guarantee you never get cancer. Or never get COVID, which is basically what he says, and it's just
right. And that's just nonsense. There's nothing there's I've dealt with chronic illness for most of my adult life, and there's nothing I can do right? There's no diet and exercise plan that's going to take that away. It just doesn't exist. And so like, it's really, but I think it's that this rhetoric is rooted in a deep fear of like, I don't want to be like that person, right? I don't want to get sick. I don't want to deal with a disability. I don't want to do that, right?
Selling false hope.
Yeah, it's false hope. It's trying to find a measure of control where there is no control. And the fact of the matter is, right, if we're thinking about like, yeah, but like people who are overweight, blah, 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 like, listen, being underweight will kill you way faster than being overweight.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like let's be sensible. And like, you know, in general, eating the McDonald's is way better for you than not eating, you know?
There is an interesting side to that one of the
Yeah.
things that can slow aging down is being hungry on occasion, not like starving yourself, but having periods of where you're hungry for a little while. So you don't, every time you get hungry, you don't immediately fill it. But a lot of protein can actually age you faster.
That's interesting.
There is, if people want, there's a really good Veritasium video on it. If people want to look it up about, I think if you go Veritasium aging, it should come up because it's a massive channel. And he basically visits a lab that is studying how to prevent aging. And they talk about how they actually made mice younger. It is so cool. But yeah, after this video, people can go try that one.
But that's a pet peeve of mine of this. Like,
oh yeah, it's a
really
huge thing.
unhealthy.
Yeah, now, do the healthy thing, stay fit as much as you can, but it's not going to stop you from getting sick.
Right. And it's not going to stop you from getting older.
Magical barrier that's going to do that.
Yeah. And that's like, I think we just have an obsession, I think, in our culture with there's this idea, because also that means that then if somebody does get sick, it's because somehow their fault because they didn't do all the right things. Right. And so you see that a lot with COVID right now, right? Like, what was it? Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of our craziest representatives, posted a video of her like doing pull-ups as like, this is my COVID prevention, right? Like, I'm working out. Like, turns out that's not actually going to help you not get COVID.
No, if you get COVID and you do that exercising, it's not going to help. It's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt. And doing it beforehand isn't going to stop you from getting it. But again, that's that idea. If I just eat the right foods and do the right exercises, then I'm a superhuman who never gets sick and will live forever. But
anyway.
All right.
Stevie, has anything you say? Oh, by the way, for the chat, for those who are still around, thank you. Get your questions ready because we'll finish up in the next minute or two. I'm not going to show much more of this. I think we have fairly well established this guy's talking out his ass.
Yeah.
But yeah, get your questions ready. They can be about this video or they can be about anything. I will prioritize ones that have to do with today's topic, but that doesn't stop anyone from asking. So please get them ready. And if there aren't really questions, then, well, we can chat about a few things and then close it up. So get them ready.
Selenium, zinc, vitamin E, vitamin C.
Okay, if you don't, unless you have a
melatonin,
vitamin deficiency, vitamin
those
supplements don't do
phytonutrients
anything.
you get from
they just
almonds,
make your urine really
eggs,
expensive.
flax seeds, kale, salmon, strawberries, which are great for sticking to heavy metals and carrying them out of the body.
No.
That's not a thing strawberries do.
Okay. Heavy metals can sometimes be taken out with fatty substances, but that means butter would take these fat. If this mechanism actually worked inside the body, butter would work better than strawberries for doing this. So I have actually studied metals in medicine before.
Team, if you're concerned you have heavy metal poisoning, you need a doctor.
Yes,
please go to a doctor.
Yeah. Strawberries will not clear lead and mercury from your system.
Sure
I don't think we have this time to go into the detailed chemistry. That might be a future video, but it doesn't. It chemically just won't work.
Yeah. Do you have functioning kidneys? Yes. Then you don't need to worry about detoxing. No, you should see a doctor.
If your liver or your kidneys aren't working, you need a hospital.
Grounding. If you haven't watched my video on grounding or earthing, Go back and watch that video.
You are
It
not a
helps
light
carry
bulb.
free radicals out of the body.
Is this like if I
Also,
walk
the way you
barefoot in
reduce
the
your
dirt,
exposure.
I
Wait,
won't get mercury poisoning?
I just need to process that bit. Grounding can take free radicals out of the body. So what he's just said is that he can remove charged chemicals by basically plugging yourself into the ground.
Yes. Yes.
Ow, that really does hurt my brain.
Right?
No, please, people, don't. And please, just in case, PSA, nobody stick your finger in a light socket because you think it's going to help your health. Please don't do that.
Don't do that. In general,
And if there's something else that he's talking about that he means grounding about putting neutral charges in, that's nonsense as well. Anyway, so I just want to finish this section or I think my brain is going to give up.
Okay.
Oh no, I bumped wrong section.
Is grounding or earthing. Go back and watch that video.
No.
It helps carry free radicals out of the body. Also, the way you reduce your exposure to the bug by staying home, you just reduce your exposure to EMFs by turning things off when you're not using them.
I mean, that'll save power.
Don't just leave your Wi-Fi on when you're not using it. Turn things off and unplug them when you go to sleep.
I'm
Go
not
outside
against
without
that
these
advice
electronics all over you.
Yeah.
Take a break from all that and eat some good food. EMF protection devices may help, as well as downloading an EMF detection app to your mobile device.
Sorry.
Download
an EMF detection app.
I think that also doubles as a ghost-o-meter, because that's what ghost hunters use. They use an EMF meter to look for ghosts. They definitely don't just find the power, the breaker, right?
It's just nonsense.
I will say, he has one bit of good advice. Listen, team, every once in a while, you should put your phone down, like go sit outside in the sunlight, eat yourself like an apple, right? Drink a glass of water, take a few deep breaths. That's a great thing to do every once in a while. It helps you unwind.
Just don't think it's going to protect you from 5G.
No. Or COVID. It's not going to do either of those things. But it is, like, relaxing. And it's good to relax.
It's good for
every
your
once in a
mental health. And it's not, like, it still helps you. You'll still be more healthy for it. It's just, as you rightly said, not going to stop things.
That's my advice to new grad students is because oftentimes, at least in STEM, right, like entering grad school is one of the more stressful things you've done in your life. That's the common experience. And so one is like, hey, listen, if everything feels awful, do me a favor. Take 20 minutes. Take a walk, get a glass of water, eat a snack. If everything still feels awful, then let's chat about it. But let's do those things first, right? Like, did you forget? Because I do. I forget to eat. I forget to drink water, right? I realize I haven't left my house in 5 days, right? And those things are detrimental to my mood.
Yes, and I think a lot of people here, including myself, will have felt the same at some point.
Yeah. So here's your reminder, team. If you haven't eaten or drank water yet today, go do that.
I'm going to go get lunch after this.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to get dinner after this. But
nice.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got much more
helpless,
useful to say.
Okay. But you are not going to stop these big tech companies from doing what they do. And do you know why? Because you all buy and use their stuff. It's as simple as that. Now, I think I've covered what I needed to in this presentation.
I'm just going to skip to the very end.
Yeah.
I want to see what he's...
Also, listen, team, if you want to go live off the grid in a cabin,
certain things operate and
feel free.
What certain things do. It is really up to us how we come out of this, not them. But if you want to make it their responsibility, you can certainly do that. I hope you all have a pleasant evening. There is, of course, more madness to come.
Oh, I agree that it's madness.
I love you guys. Stay awake, stay aware, and for the love of God, stay safe. And I'll talk to you all soon.
My only problem there is the method of staying safe that he's raising. But I think that after a marathon effort,
but we got through the video.
We did. Now,
very proud of us.
Questions.
Yeah.
For the
chat. Got team. Let's hear it. Yeah. Let's do it.
And I'm going to keep an eye. If anyone has asked a question and I've missed it, feel free to re-put it in the chat. Just make sure you tag me in there. The first one that I can see here. Oh, here's a comment from earlier. So pectins can take tiny amounts of heavy metals out. Yes, though if you've got heavy metal poisoning, it's not going to be enough. There are some drugs that they're working on that can do a little bit, but it's not going to save you from like getting rid of all of them. You can't do that. But they might. I can't get it either. I think his plug is just a successful channel because at that many subscribers, he's earning a fair bit from each video.
Yeah.
For fairly low effort. So I think it's just the YouTube fame and the ad revenue that comes with it. I haven't seen him plug specific products, which is better than some. But yeah, I'm not going to watch enough of his videos to try and figure it out. I can't. I'm not going to torture myself with that. His microwaves are evil one is funny though, like in a sinister way. It's funny. Anyway, but for those who are left in the chat, we've got to have questions. Oh, guys, someone's got to have a question because if not, I'm happy to go over some of the comments on his other video while people come up with questions.
Ooh.
You want to have a look at this grade A scientific material?
Sure. Let's take a peek.
And you're also, I'm just trying to see because you're going to get all my video suggestions on the side. And they're all of a certain topic that, okay. Give me a second. I'll reopen it in a incognito mode so it doesn't do that.
Yeah. Listen, my YouTube recommendations are really weird because half the time I'm looking for videos to debunk and half the time I'm watching stuff about Dungeons and Dragons. YouTube cannot figure me out.
Okay. We're just going to skim over these. And good. Now it's... where'd it go? There it is. Okay. First time... the first one's not that... not that interesting. It's just anecdotal. I was told to keep my conspiracy theories to us. It's just someone who's complaining they worked for a company and felt bad. And it's, yeah, but you have no proof. This one, Woodward has done his homework. I've spent the last 37 years working in telecommunications industry and realized that there is no stopping this technology. The general public has no idea how damaging the technology is. People seem more concerned about 5G, like Woodward said. Where was the concern for 4G? Most people don't know that, etc., etc., etc.
Oh, no.
It's just like, 34 replies. By the way, just to point out, this video has 163,000 views.
Jeez.
Me and my wife were literally talking about how we felt on 5G. Then, of course, my favorite content creator comes out with this video, spoke it into existence. Good Lord. My faith in humanity is not going well. Oh, I think we also have a question. So, here you go. What is your background image a photo of? It's actually... it's a stock footage, so it might not be quite accurate, but what I was searching for, it should be the old controls for a nuclear power plant.
I was going to guess nuclear power plant, actually, because that looks so similar to stuff buttons I've got to touch. I got to hang out in like one of the original nuclear submarines the US has, so it's like from like the 50s. It's kind of brilliant.
Oh, that'd be cool.
It was still
I wouldn't mind setting foot on, but Australia doesn't really. We've got one nuclear reactor, so
sorry.
And you got to be, and it's not for energy, it's just medical and research.
Okay. Aren't you guys, didn't we just sell you a bunch of nuclear subs?
Yes. We haven't
Yeah.
got them yet.
Oh, okay. You should
But
come.
I don't think we have them here. But like on land, we don't have proper reactors. We've only got one in Lucas Heights.
Gotcha.
And yeah. Also, well, I'm glad
thanks for
you
the
enjoyed
sub.
it. There we go. So hopefully some people are enjoying it. Oh, hello, Kyle. 5G was so strong it gave you that doctor fade.
Excellent. Love it.
There we go. Oh yes, and no question. And of course, yes. Thanks to everyone who was helping squish the bots. Sometimes I can get on top of them, but I was trying to balance everything else. So I'm glad people did my work for me. Because those bots are everywhere. I don't know if you, but it was like December that they started.
Okay, I haven't really done a live stream since like November, because of conference finals, holidays, and then I've been sick for a month. So
yes, we talked about this a while ago, but we've both been busy, so
yeah,
I'm glad we got around to doing it.
Me too. Yeah, that was I seriously got back from spending Christmas with my in-laws and tested positive for COVID the next day. Anyway.
No, that's my basement, Kyle. Sorry to interrupt.
By the way, a really, really great book, if you just want to read about a bonkers adventure, is called The Radioactive Boy Scout. And it is the true story of a young man who built a functioning nuclear reactor in his backyard.
Using the americium out of smoke detectors.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and in terms of comment, sorry, I am trying to jump between things.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
This made me sad. I love all of Woodward's videos as I appreciate thorough research and solution-based content. No. However, I have to disagree about the 5G having no correlation with coronavirus. From the data I've reviewed so far, that the coronavirus is present in everywhere that has rolled out 5G. Furthermore, in those areas, there weren't any infected patients till after 5G arrived. You couldn't be further from the truth. Wuhan, which was the first place that it was detected, still hasn't got running 5G. Like they still actually had no operating 5G when they first detected this.
Yeah.
And the areas it originally spread to were it was basically a track of the areas that didn't have 5G, because the more developed areas with more modern medicine took a little bit longer for it to spread faster in.
Yeah.
Although part of that was also in the US that they didn't acknowledge they had a problem for a while. So it's a bit harder to balance that. Oh, I just saw another comment. I'm not going to show it, but I can read it. Woodward is the Morpheus of YouTube. What if I told you? Lol. No.
No.
These people literally think they're living in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Anyway. If there's no further questions, because I think we've kind of zoned everyone out from this high level of intellect today.
Yeah.
I'm happy to finish up then, because I don't want to keep my guest or everyone in the chat too long. But have you got anything else you want to add, Maddie, just to finish this up?
This guy's bonkers. That's all I got.
Yeah. I don't think I can add to that. Unless anyone has a question in the next few seconds, I think we should. I think we're going to finish up. So I hope everyone enjoyed. For those who are watching after the fact, thank you very much for making it this far. For those who have survived the whole time, awesome guys. You're the reason I love doing these. Because of course you can't have a stream without a crowd. It's just two mad people talking to each other. So at least now it's two mad people talking to a crowd. But that's slightly better.
It's a little better.
Yeah, but I don't mind it. I'm slightly crazy. So what? That's how you get through science. Anyway. Yes, and I do like Sam's new name. We're hooligan comedy, although the woo part of that is quite PG. Anyway, as I always say at the end of these, remember, I'm almost a doctor. That's been Maddie from ScienceSideUp, and until next time, I'm going to hold it just for a moment until I get ready to play the outro, because I keep forgetting to set these up. Oops, wrong one. There we go. Till next time, be like a proton and stay positive. Bye all.